For those that do not know me, my name is Seval Fadil and I'm the assistant principal for this campus. It is absolutely my pleasure to welcome you all today for our themed Learning Week. Based on multiculturalism, we're so glad that you could be a part for this special celebration. Today, it is all about celebrating diversity, creativity, sharing knowledge, fostering collaboration. We brought together a fantastic group of speakers and experts. I'm really confident that the conversations, insights, and connections we'll make today. Now I would like to welcome Sean. He will be talking to you about the whole week, what we have planned, and will give you insights and the rationale of this week. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I too, well, first of all, welcome everybody. Seeing so many, standing room only is fantastic. Give yourself a big round of applause, please, people. Fantastic to see. And thank you, everybody. Wonderful cultural garments which reflect your culture and heritage. Look absolutely wonderful and beautiful today as well. Thank you very much. I also want us to start with some thank yous, because I think it's important that we do acknowledge some people. First of all, Seval. Seval, thank you for the Assistant Director being very supportive here for this event. Please give her a big warm round of applause. And also I'd like to thank David Gargana here, who I've got told is the head Chief Learning Officer or something. And also Matt, I saw Matt, but wave Matt, where are you? You're around somewhere. Yes, they're right to the back. That Matt's also part of the teacher learning gang across the college. Well done, all hard work. I'd especially like to thank the students and staff, because this is something in which was staff and students' initiative. It is they who come together and say, look, we want something to happen. I'll explain why in a moment. So once again, thank you to Finsbury Park staff, thank you to Charity and all the work, and Ochima and everybody else, and Phil and so on, done brilliantly. And I know you do it every day of the week in your classrooms, but really to events like this, we can collectively come together to make it clear our stance on multiculturalism. Why we're absolutely proud of that is very important. So thank you to staff and students as well. Thanks. So why the event? Why the themed learning event? Now let's be clear, this is our biggest ever themed learning week we've done. I've been involved in 7 or 8 of these over the last God knows how many years. We have 52 different events taking place to 3 different colleges. There are 13 sites, most of which are doing something around this. The celebration of multiculturalism, diversity and change. And why is it important that we have a themed learning week like this? Well, firstly, we can throw our minds back to the summer. Let me put some context to this. I'm a teacher, I'm very fond of contextualised learning, so let's put some context to this. The context is a simple one. We saw riots in a number of our towns across the whole of Britain, rioting against people of colour. They were like pogroms taking place, trying to burn down people who have suffered greatly, who live in accommodation. These people attacked, they tried to burn down their holidays. I am 62 years of age. I'm not quite as old as Jeremy, I'm catching up. But I have never ever seen anything like that in all the years that I've been politically campaigning. It is terrifying, it is worrying. And it's for that reason that we're here today, and staff here today said, look, we can't simply stand by and allow these things to take place, because this was orchestrated. This was something which was stirred up by some politicians, by the media, who have constantly attacked Stop the Votes, as if the problems facing us are some poor people suffering because of war or climate change, coming to this country for a better life. They're the ones to blame. Of course they're not to blame for crisis in the National Health Service. Of course they're not to blame for lack of education. Of course they're not to blame for all the ills and problems that some people in our society have to say. So it seems odd, does it not, that we stand here in the 21st century having to defend multiculturalism, but we do. Because there's some in our midst, in our society, who believe the experiment, and they call it that, the experiment of multiculturalism has failed. And that's what we have to try and undo. So when you go to their demonstrations, their protests, you look at their slogans, not only is it stop the boats, it's we want our country back. What does it mean to want our country back? A lot of people are born here. That is their country. Even they weren't born here. They're citizens of this country. It's your country, it's our country. So we mustn't allow people to divide us. And that's precisely, because if they do, we know what happens next. We only have to think about 1933, Germany, and the rise of Nazism and Hitlerism, and so on. Never again can we allow that historical process to repeat itself. Oh, thank you. So therefore, that's the context. He said, right, okay, we as teachers, we play an important role. You as students play an important role to understand history, to understand our tradition, and to celebrate what we're good at, what we love about being in a multicultural society. Can you imagine what it's like to live in a society without the fantastic fabric of change and different ideas and fermented culture and economics that different migrants over the generations have brought to this country? My good God, there would be no great in Britain if it wasn't for migration. Let's be absolutely clear about that. So, we're celebrating it. And our colleges, our 3 colleges, are part of a group, have a fantastic tradition, which we are proud to have had Jeremy Corbyn as MP, who has been a champion of those values, decade in, decade out, for years and years and years. And that's why we are saying today across the group, we want to continue that tradition, to celebrate what we do best, and celebrate and teach and educate. The final bit is this. We do this also because, you see, as a teacher, I teach GCSE English. And very rarely do I go and meet somebody in biology. Very rarely do I go and meet somebody who's in business, and so on and so forth. Maybe it's my trade union job I do, but as a teacher you don't. So what this week really is about is breaking down those barriers between different societies. So we have our performing arts staff and students going to talk to the ESOL students, to talk about verbatim theatre, get their experience and turn that into a play. I could go on, and please do look at the lovely events which Phil and others have put on. So we're trying to break down the barriers, to cross-fertilise the ideas of different departments and different curriculum, to say, look, yes, we have different things to learn, but actually there's an overarching learning experience that we're trying to develop this week, where we all come together to celebrate one theme, and that is an anti-racist, pro-multiculturalism, pro-immigrant diversity for our society. So, that's what the Theme Learning Week is. I hope everybody participates and enjoys every single moment. Solidarity to everybody. Enjoy it.
We've got our local MP, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Seven. Thank you, Sean. It's nice to see young people getting to the fore. Sean's been hiding his age for years, and now we know what it is. Can I just say, well done to all of you for putting on this fantastic event. 52 events across the college over this time is an amazing achievement, and this college itself is an example of what multiculturalism and what the strength of our society is all about, as is this area of Finsbury Park. I remember first coming to London in 1969 to Finsbury Park, and it was then, as now, busy, complicated, diverse, challenging, and a lot of fun. And I've always enjoyed living around Finsbury Park because of the variety that one gets here and the sense of support that is given to some of the most desperately unfortunate people, those that are rough sleeping and so on around here. Because a society that works is one that supports people all the time. And as Sean was pointing out, over the summer we had a taste of something really horrible and vile within our society. Those people that had sought to come to this country as a place of safety we're being given temporary accommodation in various hotels around the country. Some people with horrible intentions and horrible mindsets decided to attack those places and those hotels and try to burn them down, indeed. And as Sean pointed out, that is an exact carbon copy of what the Nazi brown shirts were doing in the 1920s and 1930s when they went after the Jewish community and tried to burn down their businesses, their properties and their synagogues. And that was a horrible event in our community. And I was talking to people in Southport in Lancashire where their worst events took place. I've got friends there. And I said, what happened? And they said, you know what? The next morning, without any organisation or anything, a whole lot of us, dozens and dozens and dozens of us, turned up at the mosque, building workers, plumbers, electricians, and repaired the mosque, rebuilt the wall, repainted, covered all the horrible graffiti that was put up, and just repaired the whole area. And they said they did it because they didn't want to live in a divided society. And those people that came and did that work, probably not Muslims, just people that hated what was going on within our society. So sometimes it's important to take a stance. Last week, I was in Parliament, as I am pretty well every day when the Parliament's in session. There was an urgent question put down, asking the government what they're doing to stop the small boats coming from France to Kent. And the member who raised this then went on and on about the invasion, the issue and the problems and so on. And the government said they were doing what they could to stop the small boats. Then the Tory opposition said, we want to do even more. And then the other side said, we're going to do even more than you are. We're going to do even more than you are. And he thought, hang on a minute. I was just sort of observing this, and I thought, there's something missing here. So I got up to speak, and I said, where is the humanity in this building today? Where is the humanity in our society? Not one of us in this room today would willingly get into a cheap rubber dinghy on the coast of France and try and cross the English Channel. We wouldn't do it because we know how dangerous it is. So ask yourself the question, what kind of desperation is it that leads people to take those risks? And so what I said to the government was, I am not here to defend gangs and people traffickers any more than anybody else is. But you have created a market for them by not providing safe routes for people to seek asylum and get legal settlement. And so you need to work together with other European countries on doing that, and I've been doing just that through my membership of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. I've been to Calais several times. The last visit, I spent a lot of time talking to a group of people about their lives, what happened to them. And you know what? Two of them had made the journey, they didn't know by all the routes, but by combination of buses, trucks, trains, coaches, walking, and so on, from Afghanistan to the west coast of France. So I said, what happened to you in Afghanistan? They said, well, the Taliban attacked us and the government attacked us. Half of my family were killed. It wasn't safe for me to stay, so I had to get out. They're victims of war. And this country put a lot of money into that war. And this is where the consequences come from. And so I just say this message to you. Let's have a sense of humanity towards refugees and asylum seekers in our society. They're not enemies, they're people that want to make their contribution to our community. And this area around here is an example of that. If there hadn't been migration into Britain since the Second World War, what kind of health service would we have? I was in the hospital 2 weeks ago family member needed to get some treatment at the A&E department, and we saw, I suppose, 6 or 8 people at various points during our visit, and they were from 6 or 8 different countries. They'd all made their contribution and were making their contribution. Same with transport, same with education, same with our society as a whole. So we need to be proud of our diversity. It's not a problem, it's something to be very proud of within this area and indeed in the country as a whole. But we have to challenge some of the narratives that are there in school teaching. I'm not talking about this college, I'm talking particularly about school teaching. Our children need to understand this map of the world shows in proper form, because it's a Peters projection, not a Mercator projection, which shows the world in a more accurate way. Look at that world. Every single one of those continents and every single one of those countries made a contribution to the commonality of our knowledge. The maths that came from Iraq, the architecture that came from Africa, the brilliance of those that built the pyramids in Mexico and in Latin America just as much as those that built them in Egypt, the science and chemistry that came from China, the engineering that came from Europe and from North America, the literature that came from Russia, the survival ability of people in the deserts in Australia. So we learn from the whole world. So let's have a global view of our education and a global view of how history brings about change. I'll finish with one example. If you read the accepted narrative, the slave trade was evil, everybody agrees with that, I absolutely agree with that. It was a genocidal attack on African people. And the slave trade was abolished by an Act of Parliament eventually, produced by a man called William Wilberforce, who was a member of Parliament. Yes, it's true, he did introduce the bill that abolished the slave trade. What it doesn't always tell you is that the same bill proposed what was a massive sum of money at the time, £20 million in compensation to the slave owners, and slavery was indeed eventually abolished. The real reason it was abolished was the uprising of slaves in Jamaica and in Virginia and all over the Caribbean. And that meant the sugar didn't get to Britain. The sugar companies lost a lot of money, so they petitioned to end the slave trade because they wanted to continue their profitable enterprise. And so slavery was actually abolished by the uprisings of the slaves themselves and the solidarity of people all around the world. And so, as we talk of Martin Luther King, and we talk of those that achieved great change in the USA, it was the uprising of the people themselves and the solidarity that happened around the world. So, when we study history, there's always 3 or 4 versions of it, and we need to ensure all of our children are brought up to ask questions, and above all, to respect each other's faith, each other's background, each other's language, and recognise that all good things don't come from one place. Our learning comes from the entire world. And so what you're doing here in this college is fantastic. The inclusive education you provide, the accessibility you provide, and the opportunities you provide for people to come back to education who've missed out on chances in school, missed out on chances because they couldn't get time off from work to study, and you provide that access to education. And I think that's what's so fantastic about this college. And I'm very proud to represent this area and work with this college and all of you as students to try and achieve something better in our world. We're not going to solve the problem of housing, shortage of housing. We're not going to solve the problem of student funding and education. We're not going to solve the problem of mental health in our society by turning on each other and turning on minorities. The only way we achieve a more just, a more equitable, and a more successful society is by working together, all of our communities coming together. Last summer was a horrible time, but when we asked people to come to a demonstration outside the mosque, just around the corner, to show our support for our society, hundreds and hundreds of people came, the road was blocked, an act of joy and love and solidarity. That's what multicultural learning achieves for us. Thank you very much.
We have Maxine Luby, which will be talking to us about adult education and diversity.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's been really hard to follow on from that, but what stood out for me is the speaker just there, she said, you can't get growth without pain, and it is hard, but it's something we have to achieve and strive for. Just want to say something before we start, because I too am a further education teacher, so I'm going to do a bit of teaching and I'm going to give you a bit of homework. So first things first, it's Remembrance Day today. What they don't teach you in our history books, unfortunately, is that thousands of Caribbean, Asian and African soldiers fought for this country. So your homework today, students, when you go back to class, it doesn't matter if it's maths, English, performing arts, drama, ask your teacher to make sure that you know about that, because it's important. We don't know enough about what's going on in the world. We don't know enough about the contributions that African, Asian and other racialised communities have made to this country. We need to know. So teachers, your homework is to do that. Students, your homework is to make sure you ask your teachers. Okay, I'm just going to start with a little bit about me. My name is Maxine Luby. I'm a further education teacher. Further education is at the heart of everything I do. It's first and foremost, and I'll tell you why. When I was at school, even though I knew I was bright and capable and knowledgeable, I got written off. There were very few black people in my school, and every day was a fight because of racism. Going from one class to another was a fight because of racist people in my school. I sometimes had to change the route to get to maths just to avoid it. So all those people out there who have had similar experiences, don't give up. And even though I didn't do as well as I wanted to at school, because it was a constant battle just trying to stay alive and fight the system, I then went on to further education. And I can tell you this honestly, if it wasn't for my further education teachers, I would not be stood here talking to you today. People like Sean, who I know, we don't always agree, do we, Sean? But what we do agree on is education and the fight back against racism. And all the teachers in this college, and every college in London across the country, cares about their students. We wouldn't be here if we didn't. We want to see you succeed where you think you can't succeed, where schools tell you that you are not good enough. You have to believe and know that you are good enough and you can achieve. That's the most important thing. And we often say further education is about second chances. For a lot of people, it's a first chance. I teach in further education, and I've taught ESOL and English, and I've had students who have come to class never ever having held a pen. I've had students come to class with not a word of English, and then within a year or so, they are talking to me and joking with me. So it goes to show that further education creates and works miracles. And don't think that this is the end. This is just a start. This is why we call it further education. Because it's about you understanding that you can contribute and you will contribute to society in a positive way. And like me, I started at further education. I then went to university. So I was in Leicester. I moved to Manchester to go to university. And I'm proud to stand here today as UCU's president of all our members, and anybody who's working, if you're not in a union, make sure you join a union. And as a further education lecturer, our colleges are at the heart of social cohesion. We bring communities together. We support those who are in need. We support those who want to get into work but who don't know how to. This is what we do. This is what we do as Standard. And even though we might have different voices and different ideas, when you walk into a college, we stand together. And I'm saying to you now, just as all those African, Asian and Caribbean soldiers stood up and fought, not just for this country but for the world, what I'm asking all of you to do is stand up and fight for your communities. We're not going to let racists pull us apart. It's not going to happen. If we stand together, they can't win. We saw that in the summer. They tried, they failed. But let's not forget that it's not just about they've gone away. They are regrouping. They want to come back. They want to come back stronger. So whatever country you come from, whatever your culture or your religion, do not let the racists divide and separate you. That is their goal. And can I just say one more thing before I finish? It's always a pleasure to come into a college and talk to students and teachers. I don't know any of the students here, but what I do know is I'm proud of every one of you, because you could have been my student. And I also know that if you were my student, I'd do everything I can to make sure that you succeed in life. So thanks everybody, keep doing what you're doing, and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. Now we welcome David Tangana to have a few words with us.
Thank you, Sarah. Initially, it was the Chief Executive Officer who was supposed to be here, Angela, but I kind of convinced her that I think I would be a better person to talk in this event where we're talking about multiculturalism. And the reason is just like, before I say that, I want you all to look around the room and just see the diverse faces that are all in this room. Now, I'm the Chief Learning Officer within this organization, which means that I'm kind of up there. And I want you all to see that as a source of encouragement. When I came into this country about 27 years ago, I was an established veterinary surgeon in my country, but could not practice here. My first point of contact was an FE college, where they taught me how to use computers. That is the same with a lot of you here. This is your first point of contact with education, with the British society. And I'm very proud to be here within this organization. It's not going to be easy, like Lydia said. However, persevere, know your goals, aim for them, and keep working hard. You're going to have to work very hard to get to where you want to be. But please do not be discouraged. It's very important that you do that. Like I said earlier on, the FE sector is one place where you have that first contact. In a lot of cases, if you came into this country when you were 16, you don't get the opportunity to go back to school, you have to come to an FE college. Finsbury Park here has worked with a lot of young, recent arrivals, teaching them how to integrate in society, how to behave in society, how to get those behavior skills, knowledge to get by. The more adult students, whether you came with a little broken English or no English, the ESOL teachers took a lot of time to support you. Simple things, how to get by, how to get a hospital appointment, how to buy things, how to go to the council. All these little skills that we need to survive, they're all taught by our teachers. The FE teachers are very flexible. I see the wonderful work that all our teachers put towards every learner within this organization. And if you think of us, this is just one of the centers. We've got about 10 other centers, all scattered around London. And every teacher comes in, works hard to ensure that each and every one of you get what you need to progress within society. I want to use this opportunity to thank all our teachers who do a lot of work. I also want to use this opportunity to thank all the support staff who do a lot of work in the background and you never know what happens. The patience to just sit down and listen to somebody and point them in the right direction, even if they couldn't support them as individuals. So there's a lot that goes on, and I'm hoping that we would continue to do that. As a college, all our various centers do a lot to support the communities that we serve, and we shall continue to do that. And yes, there's always noise, Jeremy said earlier on about we might not be able to solve the funding crisis and the rest that face schools and colleges. However, all our teachers go beyond and do their best. And so when they throw their hands up in despair, they're also human. So just recognize that. Go home, sleep, come back the next day, they'll be there to support you again. Now, with regards to this particular college, a lot of our students continue to do excellently well. Our achievement rates, that's the number of students that pass, continues to increase year in, year out. And so there are times when people come to me, because part of my job is to really look at the performance of different groups and the rest. And I keep saying to them, in this college, the so-called ethnic minorities are actually doing very well. So that it's not a problem, okay? They gain their qualifications, they gain the skills. But it's tough out there, and please do not allow anything to stop you. I want you all to persevere. I want you all to listen to what Lydia said earlier on. Just keep going. It's tough out there, but that's the reality of life. We're going to have to keep going and keep doing what you do best. Never stop coming to colleges. It's really important. There's always something that you keep learning. I, as an individual, every now and again, register on a college course. Not here, because I don't want Sean giving me a hard time. But knowledge is one asset that nobody can take away from you. And so the more you learn, the better you are as an individual. I want to thank all our guests who have come from outside. Thank you very much for sparing time with us. And I hope you all have a good day.